Hi students, today we are doing Math Unit 8 Lesson 5, which is called Using Dot Plots to Answer Statistical Questions. So let's go ahead and get started. So for today, you're going to need a lined piece of notebook paper or your spiral math notebook. You should have a highlighter always ready to go because you know that I really like to highlight, and of course something to write with. So let's start off by getting our notes, our heading on our notes. It's important that we do this so we can keep our notes in order, because you will always get to use your notes on any quizzes or tests or even your homework problems. So again, this is Unit 8. We are in Lesson 5. And I kind of abbreviated the name of the lesson using DP dot plots to answer statistical questions. So I'm going to give you guys a couple of a minute or so to get your heading on the paper. Again, Unit 8, Lesson 5, using DP dot plots to answer statistical questions. Now, before we even get started in today's lesson, there's two terms that you're going to hear me use a lot, and it's really important for you to understand what these two terms mean so you can understand today's lesson. So the first term is called spread. So let's go ahead and write the word spread. S-P-R-E-A-D. Turn my camera just a little bit here. And spread means the distance between the lowest dot value, and the highest dot value. You're going to put a value, period. And this will make sense once we get a little bit further into today's lesson, but it's very important that you define the word spread and you understand by the end of the lesson what that means. So again, the distance between the lowest dot value on a dot plot and the highest dot value. The second term you're going to hear me use a lot today is the word center. C-E-N-T-E-R. The center is simply going to be, for today's lesson, the middle value on a dot plot. So when we look at a dot plot, not only are we going to be figuring out the spread of a dot plot with the dots, we're going to be estimating the middle. Now for today's purposes, we're just estimating. We're not actually finding the actual center, okay? That would be the median. We are just simply going to find estimated center. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started on today's lesson. Now again, you don't have the notes, so I'm going to be showing you the notes, and then we'll be kind of doing some writing on our own. So I'm just going to scooch this up a little bit. And the first one, we're going to do a couple exercises together. 5.2, and this is called On the Phone. On the phone. So I'm going to show you a dot plot, okay? Now I want to talk about this real quick. So first of all, it says 25 sixth grade students, okay? So there's 25. We're asked to estimate how many hours a week they spend talking on the phone. This dot plot represents the reported number of hours on the phone per week. So this is definitely a statistical question. First of all, they asked a group 25. Okay, that's one of the characteristics of a statistical question. They had to do some work. They had to get a survey. They had to ask all 25 students this question. We have some variability. As you can see, we've got 0 hours, 1, 2, 3. They all did not answer the same. So therefore, this definitely is a statistical question. Now this is talking on the phone. It's not texting, it's simply talking. And it's over the span of a week. And here's how the results fared out. This dot plot represents hours of phone per week. So you can see several students were at 0. What does this mean? That means they didn't spend any time talking on the phone. This isn't texting, this is talking. We had several students say they spent an hour, some said they spent 2 hours, and we had 3 students say they spent 3 hours talking on the phone. So using this dot plot, we're going to answer some questions, okay? The first question, let's come back to our first question. So question number 1 is, how many of the students reported not talking on the phone? So we come back up here, we look at our data collected, we find the 0, and let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So number 1, we're going to say 10 students did not talk. And this is just a quick review on looking at the data on a dot plot and understanding it. Now, what if the second question I asked you would be, what is the largest number of hours spent? So let me put the plot back in front of you. So what is the greatest number of hours spent talking on the phone, and how many students talked on the phone? Give you a couple minutes to think about it. Okay. Hopefully you noticed that 3 hours was the longest amount of time, and we had 3 students. So let's answer question 2, 3 hours, and then we had 3 students. All right, so far so good. Now the last question kind of has to do with our question of, well, now let's figure out, before I jump to that one, let's figure out number 3, asks us for the spread of the data. So this is one of our vocab words, the spread. What's the spread? Okay, once again, the spread means the distance between the highest and the lowest value. So we look over here and we see that 0 is the lowest, 3 is the highest, so the spread is 0 to 3 hours. That's what we mean when we asked you for the spread. Now, what if I asked you to tell me what is the estimated center of the data? That's the middle plot. Now we're just estimating, so we're looking at it, we're kind of eyeballing it, as I say. So I look at this data, I've got 0 to 3. If I had to find somewhere kind of right in the middle, okay, I'd probably think, well, I got a lot of people over here on the 0 to 1. I have some people on the 2 to 3. So maybe I'm just going to go right down and split it right down the middle between my 1 and my 2. I'm just eyeballing it, estimating it. So in this case, I'm going to say 1.5 hours. And that's how we get the center in today's lesson. All right? That's just a quick little review. Let's go ahead now and look at a different plot, a different dot plot, just so we understand. So this is going to be number 4. Let me just get my camera up a little bit here so we have some room. Number 4. So let's look at this dot plot. This is now going to switch, okay? And instead of looking at hours on the phone talking, this is the hours spent on homework per week. So once again, these are our 6th graders. There's 25 of them, but this time we're looking at the hours spent on homework per week. And you can see that we have 1 student that didn't spend any time on their homework, all the way up to a student that spent 10 hours on their homework. So the first thing I want us to figure out is, what is the spread of this dot plot's data? Okay, so what is the lowest point, which is 0, and the highest point, which is 10, and that is your spread. So the spread is 0 to 10, and we were talking about hours spent on the homework. All right, now I'm going to come back and I'm going to ask you, if we had to estimate the center, okay, the center of this data, all right? Now, I know that number 5 is the center of the numbers, all right, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's the center of the dots. So we're looking at the dots, all right? So if we were to find the center of the numbers, that's 5. But it looks like I've got a lot more dots over here to the left of 5. Not as many dots to the right of 5. So maybe the center of my data needs to be more over close to here, right? So I'm just going to estimate, and I'm going to say, well, maybe I'm going to go with the center of the data is going to be 4. And that's what we're doing. So the center is 4 hours. Center is kind of like the average, the middle, the median, about 4 hours. And that's kind of how we would talk about that. All right, let's go ahead now and look at 5.3. 5.3 is called click clack. Now this time around, let me put up the data so we can talk about it. Okay, we see 2 dot plots. This data is about a teacher who teaches a keyboarding class at school. And she was trying to figure out if students were able to improve after they took her keyboarding class. So the first dot plot was, of course, like it says here, before beginning of the course. So maybe the first day of class, this is what the students, okay, were able to type. And again, all these numbers here, guys, represent numbers of words per minute. So it looks like the slowest typer could type 8 words per minute, and the fastest typer could type 30 words per minute. Then when the course was over, she had them take like an end of the course typing test, and look how much the students, the dot plots changed. Now, the slowest typer could type 20 words per minute, and the greatest typer could type 34 words per minute. Do you also notice how these dots are a lot more closer together, or these dots are more spread out? So if we go back to our term about variability, there's a lot of variability in the beginning because all the dots are spread throughout the dot plot. If we look at the second dot plot, there's not as much variability. The spread is less, all more kind of clustered together. All right, that's important that we understand when we talk about variability and the spread. This is all really spread out here. So the first question I want us to answer is, at the beginning of the course, what is the spread of data? So look at this and tell me and write down the spread of data for this first dot plot. So the spread at the beginning, okay, spread at the beginning. We go from the lowest dot, 8, all the way to the highest dot, which is 30. So the spread at the beginning was 0 to, oh, I'm sorry, not 0, 8 to 30. The lowest value to the highest value. Now let's look at the spread at the end of the course, at end. I'll put the dot plot back up for you so you can see it. Now go ahead and figure out what is the spread, okay, at the end of the course. Hopefully you guys went 20 to 34. 20 through 34. Okay, and that's going to give you the spread at the end of the data. Now, what if I wanted you to find out what was the center at beginning? Okay, so I put the plot back up there. So the center at the beginning, so the estimated center. Okay, so here are the plots. We're looking at the beginning, course 1. You kind of have to find the middle. So not necessarily the middle number, okay, but more like the middle point. So if I'm looking at this, it's a really spread out. Maybe I'm just going to kind of go like this. And it looks like if I had to guess, maybe the middle would be somewhere in between, like the 18 and the 20 would be a good estimated center. So I'm going to come back here and say the center at the beginning was 19 words per minute. Now let's go back and find the center at end. center at the end. I'll put the plot back up here. Okay. We can see that the data is more together. It's not spread out. So the best thing to do is kind of put your finger at the end, each ends, and kind of come to the middle. And I'm just going to do a guesstimation that maybe it's right here. And that would be between the 26 and the 28. So I'm going to just say 27. Okay. Now let's answer some questions, okay, based on the dot plot. Question 1 says, overall, the students' typing speed did not improve. They typed at the same speed at the end of the course as it did at the beginning. So this student looked at the end number. So we have 30 and 34. Well, there was a slight increase, but this student's saying that the typing speed didn't improve at all. Would you agree or disagree with this statement? Hopefully you're all thinking in your heads that you disagree because there was an improvement. When we started the course, the slowest typer was at 8 words per minute. But by the end of the course, the slowest typer was at 20 words per minute. So there was a huge increase, okay, there was a huge improvement in the typing speeds from the start to the end. So the second question, let's say we disagreed. And we're going to say type speed did improve. Okay, so the typing speed did improve from the end of the beginning of the course to the end of the course. Let's look at question number B. 20 words per minute is a good estimate for how fast, in general, the students typed at the beginning of the course. So we're going to come back up here and look. Now, we said that the middle part was about 19, but 20 would work as well. 20 and 19 are right about in the middle. So I'm going to say for number 3 that we agree. 19 to 20 is a good estimate. Okay. Let's look at the next question. 20 words per minute is a good description of the center of the data at the end of the course. Okay, so let's look up here at the end of the course. Now, when we did it earlier, we determined that actually 27 is a better center. They're saying is 20. Well, 20 would have been a good center at the beginning of the course, but by the end of the course, it definitely had increased to 27. So we're going to go ahead and disagree. And say 27 is a good estimate of center at end. And we're just kind of re-emphasizing what we've already talked about. Trying to think, I think if I wanted to do one more with you guys, let's just do one more question and then we're going to wrap it up. Question 5 said there was more variability in the typing speeds at the beginning than at the end. So the students' typing speeds were more like at the end. Are we going to agree or are we going to disagree? Well, let's look at our two plots, okay, right there. And we see that there's a lot of variability, okay, at the beginning of the course because our data is spread all the way out from 8 all the way to 30. But if you look at the end of the course, okay, there is not that much variability in the data. That's more compacted, more pushed together. So our answer to number 5, guys, is that yes, there is more variability at the beginning than the end. Yes, there's more variability at the beginning, than at the end. And again, we can say the data is spread out. There you go. And that's pretty much what today's lesson, guys, is all about. It's you looking at different dot plots, figuring out what this spread is, looking back and seeing what the centers would be, the estimated centers, and then determining the variability. So remember, okay, here's some key points here. So I'm going to actually put key, and this is really important that you understand this because it'll really help you with the practice problems. All right. The first key point would be the more spread, the more variability. Okay, that's a really big part of today's lesson. And on the flip side, we could then say the less spread, the less variability. So these are really kind of hitting home our lesson today. All right. Anyways, good luck on the homework. You've got a worksheet to do and you have one Khan Academy to do as well. So see you tomorrow.